Mame fa na se ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
Yemu bibia akwaba eba PENDREAM TV. Send no first time my message also be me a subscribe button so no click the bell notification icon. Comment section on our radio to the aba like na share jumadi no ma afofro ensa enkabi. Kwesi Pratt e de ensem bi atudwa a wakasa for the first 14 days administration of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama ne presidency no ho. Na ensem bi ka we ho na Kwesi Pratt e de atudwa. Me pese be jebre na waka me ho. Na yati ne nsem no enchire mu.
Pratt.
Well, we're looking at the first 14 days of the administration of Mr. John Dramani Mahama as President of the Republic of this country. I must say that this has been an interesting 14-day period. And there are many things that have happened within the 14 days which are inspirational. There are some things which have happened in the 40 days which give us hope and so on. But at the same time, some things have happened within the 14 days which make us uncomfortable. And I like to deal first with some of the things that give us some assurance and so on, and deal with the things that make us completely uncomfortable later. One of the very first things that I have noticed, which is encouraging and so on, is the attempt to keep promises that he made on the election campaign. Indeed, even before he started nominating his ministers, he reduced the number of ministries by 7, which indicated that he was considering or taking seriously the promise he made about reducing the size of government. And I found that very impressive. I must say that some of the changes I thought could have been better, even in terms of the reduction of the number of ministries.
Okay.
Because it sounded strange, that you would have a Ministry of Natural Resources and so on, and have other agencies responsible with dealing with natural resources outside that scope. Because I thought that the idea was to bring all of the agencies and so on who deal with the same thing together, So I like the idea that the number of ministries has been reduced by 7. And as I said, it gave us the indication of what was to come. So I'm happy with that. Maybe as we go along, the coupling can be done much better. But nonetheless, I think that it's a good and bold step. The other thing which has impressed me also is his insistence that his appointees ought to be modest. And every opportunity he has had, he's raised the issue of modesty. He's raised the issue of showing the respect, to the electorate and so on. I find that reassuring, because at least it keeps that still, in the horizon. It gives a certain focus and all. I had been worried in the past about the fact that even in opposition, I saw his convoy, his campaign convoy, and sometimes I counted more than 40 cars and so on. And I was very alarmed, Since he became president, I do not see that. It has not been carried into the presidency. And he's persistently insisting on modesty and so on. I think that it's a good thing. Then, for me, one of the good things is that he's keeping his promise to appoint his cabinet within the first 14 days. There's no doubt at all that that has also been achieved. So that's also generally impressive. Then you're looking at the caliber of people he has appointed. Not all of them actually fit the mold, but most of them appear to have been carefully selected and placed in positions where they have the relevant experience and so on. You understand? Now, I can understand why a president of Ghana may have difficulty in focusing on competence and so on. Because we ourselves have placed presidents in a jam, you know. There's so many things that ought to be balanced in the appointments. And sometimes it makes things extremely difficult for the president. One of the persons I've admired over a long period of time is this young man called John Jinapor. I mean, anytime he's spoken about the energy sector, you've had the sense that he knows the sector very well. He has his figures, he has his analysis, and so on. You get the sense that he knows the sector quite very well. And I was not surprised that he was announced as energy minister and so on. Now, Senator, some of the things that worried me, and they worry me very, very deeply, in the first 14 days of President Mahama, is the announcement that his government is even thinking about the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana. It shocked me completely, okay? Because President Mahama ought to be aware of the fact that the people of this country have resisted the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana for at least 30 years. Vigorous resistance. Cogent arguments have been made against the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana. Indeed, one of the reasons why he was elected, I dare say, was the anger of the people of Ghana at the prospect of the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana. So I was really surprised when first it came from him that the question of privatization of ECG was on the table. And then this was also repeated by somebody like John Jinapor, who I've already said I had admired over a long period of time, that the government was considering the privatization of the electricity company of Ghana. Now, my brother, under Mr. Rawlings, aspects of the electricity company of Ghana's operations were privatized, and it led to total disaster. Mr. Rawlings' government brought in the electricity company of France to handle the question of revenue mobilization and so on. After 2-3 years, the performance was so horrible that we had to chase the electricity company of France out of this country. And the records are there. Again, one of the governments, I think it was the Kufuor administration or so on, decided to privatize one of the utilities, that is the Ghana Water Company, and brought in Aqua Vitans Rand of South Africa. The performance was so horrible that in the final analysis, you had to chase Aqua Vitans Rand out of this country and so on. So all of these records are there. Now, besides, since 1966, when the Nkrumah government was overthrown, we've had about 500 state enterprises privatized. Sana, out of these 500 state enterprises which were privatized, only 2 survived. Only 2 survived. And the 2 who survived are hotels. what is today known as the Lancaster Hotel and Ambassador Moving Pick. All the others collapsed completely. So that should teach us that private capital is not necessarily the answer to the problems which are encountered by state enterprises. You understand? The evidence is there. Look at those which collapsed. State Fishing Corporation collapsed. Black Star Line collapsed. Many divisions of Gihok collapsed. Just check. In private hands, they collapsed completely. So nobody today can make the argument that privatization is the solution to the problems which confront, state enterprises. Now, I ask myself, what is it that we expect the private sector to bring to ECG to make a difference? One of the major problems confronting the ECG today is just simply the fact that it is broke. It is not able to generate sufficient resources to run its operations. Now, can anybody tell us that the private sector has more capacity for generating or raising funds than the state of Ghana? Somebody must make that argument. I don't see how that argument can be made, but I want to hear somebody make that argument so that we can challenge that argument with facts. I said, I'm only looking for expertise in the energy sector. There is no private sector entity in Ghana which has more expertise than the state sector, the state energy sector. None whatsoever. I want to be convinced. None whatsoever. Okay. Which leaves us with the possibility, if you're talking about expertise, of bringing in external sources and so on. But that is a disaster waiting, a disaster in waiting. Because the question of power, it's so very strategic that it is not just an economic factor. It's not just a factor of industrialization and so on. It's a factor of national security. Who manages your energy? It's a question of national security. Now, given the analysis that I've made so far, are we going to hand over our energy sector, a substantial part of our energy sector, to private capital, private foreign capital? That's shocking. One of the reasons why the electricity company of Ghana is unable to generate the financial resources it needs to be able to operate efficiently and so on is simply the energy mix that we are running, the energy mix. And right now, we have substantially hydro, and then we have thermal generation, and we have some very small green energy. That's the mix we are running. Now, if you take hydro generation, 1 unit of hydroelectric power costs at the maximum 3 cents. It can cost 2 cents, maximum 3 cents. When you come to thermal generation, the cost begins at 11 cents per unit all the way up to 33 cents per unit. So you can see that the more you depend on thermal generation, the more expensive it is. And the more expensive it is, the more likelihood it is that your tariffs would increase. And no government wants to increase tariffs for the consumer, because you can lose an election, you become unpopular and so on. So we've come to the point where the PURC has been extremely careful about raising tariffs. And the ECG has complained over the years about the fact that the tariffs that are approved are not sufficient to enable it to run efficiently. And one of the reasons why the ECG has argued that way is simply that our line losses are huge. You know, line losses, or what sometimes is called technical losses and so on, they're huge. And these line losses are huge partly because of the existing infrastructure. The existing infrastructure is outdated, is old, is weak, and so on. So we need to change the existing infrastructure. Okay. So one may argue that the private sector will bring in much needed funds in order to be able to revamp the infrastructure and so on. But I'm saying that governments have more capacity to generate resources, including loans and so on, than the private sector. And indeed, even the loans that the private sector usually acquires ought to be guaranteed by government. You take the energy sector again. I mean, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah got his resources for building the Akosombo Dam from Kaiser Engineering. But the Ghana government had to provide guarantees in order for Kaiser Engineering to raise the kinds of resources that is needed for the building of the Akosombo Dam and so on. Now, I like to go back into history and to find out why we are where we are today. And I recall that by February 24, 1966, Ghana did not have the kinds of problems we have today with electricity. Our major problem there was the rich. We had not extended, electricity to many rural communities and so on. The rich was a problem. But in terms of generation capacity, one of the biggest generation capacities in Africa at the time, 1966 grew. But even then, the Nkrumah government had decided that in addition to building the Akosombo Dam, we needed to build the Bui Dam, build what was called the mini hydro projects, build a nuclear power plant, and also pursue green energy. This was in the 7-year development plan of Nkrumah. In fact, at the time, Soviet engineers had already arrived on site at Bui. The construction of the dam had almost begun. These Dankwa Buzia elements and their coup makers brought in a so-called expert from England who advised that Ghana's generation capacity was too big and that we didn't need all the other sources, so we should stop. We stopped the construction of the Bui Dam. We abandoned the nuclear project which the Nkrumah government has started and so on. And for a long period of time, there were no substantial additions to our generation capacity. That is where we are today. The negligence of the Buzia government and other governments in refusing to add on to the generation capacity that we had. Indeed, it took a champion to build the Pong hydroelectric project. Without that, we would have been in a bigger crisis than we are today. Okay. So if this is the problem, how do you address it? If these are the problems, how do you address it? Do you address it simply by handing over to private capital? And you see, this government itself needs to learn its own lessons. Because when President Mills came to power as president, with Mr. John Dramani Mahama as vice president, one of the companies we had sold included the Tema Dry Dock. And I remember this very, very clearly. President Mills' administration, which included now President Mahama, fought tooth and nail to repossess the dry dock at Tema because privatization wasn't working. And the dry dock at Tema, properly managed, properly handled and so on, can become a major economic factor in Ghana's development. So they took it back. I not surprised that today we are talking about privatization again? Now, significantly, the Public Utility Workers Union of the TUC has fired a first shot, has issued a statement opposing the privatization of ECG, and has put forward other alternatives. This has been the position of organized labor all these years. It's not just the Public Utility Workers Union. And I recall when President John Dramani Mahama went to have a meeting in the Hall of Trade Unions, he pledged that he would consult the trade unions, he would work with them and so on. ECG is one area where he should listen to the trade unions and work with the trade unions and abandon this reckless part of privatization. It is so reckless, I can't believe it. Okay. Now, one of the best decisions that the Mahama administration has taken so far, as far as I'm concerned, has to do with the appointment of Lieutenant Colonel Bevlo Latte as special envoy to the Alliance of Sahel States. I think this is a masterstroke. Masterstroke. If you place it within the context of the geopolitics of West Africa. Okay. Now, what are the main factors? If you look at West Africa, the total population of West Africa is about 500 million people, a little over 500 million people. Nigeria alone has half that population at 260 million. Okay. Ghana is the second most populated country in West Africa with a population of around 32, 33 million. Now that should tell you a lot already. Okay. The lopsidedness when it comes to population distribution is obvious. So Ghana has something else in addition to just its population size, and that has to be its history. And its history is that history of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who spearheaded the liberation struggle not just in West Africa, but across the African continent as well, and gave Ghana a clout which enables Ghana to punch way above its weight in international relations. Very significant. Okay. Now, if you take Nigeria, Nigeria has so many limitations. Nigeria ought to have been the giant in West Africa, no doubt. Nigeria produces 2 million barrels of oil a day, huge economic power, 260 million people in this country and so on, huge. But Nigeria's power is limited. One, because of the insecurity in Nigeria. As if you go to the northeast, you have the Boko Haram insurgency thriving. If you go to the Niger Delta area, you have what has been described by security experts as a low-intensity civil war. And then if you go to the east proper, you have the Biafran secessionist movement thriving. Okay? Then the mismanagement of the national economy of Nigeria is also phenomenal. So Nigeria is not able to play the kind of role that it ought to play. And that comes to Ghana. You understand? Now, ECOWAS reacted so very badly to the coup d'etats that occurred in Mali, Guinea, Niger, and Burkina Faso, and to some extent Chad. Okay, ECOWAS reacted so very badly. Tinubu and Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and Alassane Ouattara led the charge. And their solution was that let's send our soldiers there to go and kill people and so on, and reinstate ousted heads of states, including Bazoum of Niger. I mean, such a reckless thought. Okay? And it was so reckless that the Nigerian Senate actually refused to go along with Tinubu, voted Tinubu down. In fact, all the Nigerian states bordering Niger told their government that they would not allow their government to use their space to launch any attack on Niger. Now, come to think of it, France, who should have been the beneficiary, the ultimate beneficiary of this recklessness, gave West African leaders $20 million to go and kill themselves, to go and kill their citizens and so on. They are going along with it. Okay. Now, it's as a result of this recklessness that 3 states, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, decided to form this alliance. A lot of people tend to think that this is a political alliance. It is not. It is first and foremost a military defense pact. Now, the 3 countries are saying that if you attack one, you have attacked all of us. We are all coming to face you, and so on. More or less a defense pact. Okay. Now I'm sitting back and wondering why West African leaders were so reckless, given the fact that ECOWAS was formed by military leaders. Go and check the time that ECOWAS was formed. See who were the leaders at the time. The vast majority of West African leaders at the time were military leaders. So even the very institution they claimed to be protecting and so on was formed by military leaders. So it doesn't make sense to have this level of hostility against military leaders and so on. It doesn't. Okay. Now for me, there are some reasons. I mean, when Traore comes to Ghana and is being cheered and so on, there are concrete reasons. Okay, real concrete reasons. If you take a country like Niger, at the time of the coup, Niger was classified as one of the 3 poorest countries in the world. Fact. 1 year after the coup, Niger is now classified as the fastest growing economy, not in West Africa, not in Africa, but the world. They must be doing something that our leaders must learn. Indeed, they are doing better than our leaders. In one of the countries, I think it's Mali, its GDP was around 18.2 or 0.4% dollars, you know. Within this short time, its GDP has shot up to $24 billion. Is that not something that we should be learning? Look, from the Nkrumah days, all African patriots have insisted that we should build an Africa without a bomb, that no foreign power should be allowed to establish military bases on our soil. We haven't been able to do that. Indeed, Akufo-Addo signed an agreement to the United States of America permitting the United States of America to use our Kotoka International Airport as a forwarding base for its military activities in the sub-region and so on. These military leaders, so-called coup leaders, have come and they have dismantled foreign military bases on their soil. Niger used to house the largest US drone base in the world. It's been dismantled. The French military base there has been dismantled and so on. These are inspirational moves and so on. But you see, maybe that is not what John Mahama is looking at. And I don't know what he's looking at, okay? Because he hasn't explained why he has appointed a special envoy for the Sahel states. But I'm doing an independent analysis. Now, if you do the independent analysis, especially Ghana and Burkina Faso, the people in the farthest part of Ghana, the northern part, and Burkina Faso are the same people. In fact, the boundary between Ghana and Burkina Faso cuts across villages. Part is Ghanaian, part is Burkinabe. They have the same culture, they speak the same language, and so on. Same people. We cannot afford to have a hostile relationship between us because we are the same people. You understand? We cannot afford. Now, beyond that, these countries suffer from some insurgencies. Okay? Everybody says Islamic insurgency and so on. If you do the proper analysis, more than that. Because if you take a country like Mali, yes, there are Islamic insurgents in Mali, but they also have the Azawad Liberation Movement, which is not an Islamic insurgency group. We need to understand that clearly. Okay. Burkina Faso has some Islamist insurgents and so on. So does Niger and all. Now, one of the things which is most significant is the fact that before Traoré took power in Burkina Faso, the government of Burkina Faso controlled only about 40% of the land area of Burkina Faso. 60% was in the hands of the insurgents. That situation has been reversed now. Okay? Now, what I'm saying is that these insurgents in Burkina Faso and other places have attacked northern Benin. In fact, the recent attack on Benin came further southwards than has ever happened in history of these attacks. Northern Togo has also been attacked by the insurgents. La Côte d'Ivoire has been attacked by insurgents in the past and so on. So perhaps Ghana is the only country which has not been directly attacked by the insurgents. But I've seen police intelligence reports, authentic reports, which say that these insurgents have infiltrated Ghana all the way below Tamale, heading to the Volta River at Yeji. And that they have sleeping cells and so on. You understand? Cause for concern, these police intelligence reports. Recently, we were also told that the insurgents in Burkina Faso use Ghana as some kind of a place to retreat to. And so we heard that report in the media and so on. Now, how do we protect ourselves against these insurgents if we are not going to cooperate with these countries which are at the forefront of the insurgencies? So it is imperative that we build a certain relationship with these countries to protect ourselves. And that is why the decision by President John Dramani Mahama to appoint none other than Lieutenant Colonel Gbebrolati is super commendable. You understand what I'm saying? Then there's the issue of trade. Burkina Faso is a landlocked country, and I think so is Niger, and so on. So they need access to the Atlantic Ocean for purpose of improving their own trade and so on. We can actually strangulate them. But if you strangulate them, you will bear the consequences because you share a border with them. If you strangulate them, your fertilizer will be smuggled on a larger scale than before. Your petroleum products will be smuggled on a larger scale and so on. Smuggling would be intensified and so on. The revenue we get from allowing them to use our ports and so on would also vanish and so on. Those countries themselves will also suffer a great deal, and so on. So any sensible leader in Ghana, and I will count President John Mahama in the category of sensible leaders because of the appointment he has made, would have to look at how to improve that relationship. Who better to appoint than Lieutenant Colonel Gbebrolati? I'm sure all of you know him and know his background and so on. He actually started off his military career at Border Guards headquarters. That's where he started his military career. But under the so-called, and I mean so-called 31st December revolution, he was recruited for training in Cuba as a commando. Okay? was trained in Cuba as a commando. And his colleagues in the army will tell you about his skills as a military officer. I'll just give you a small part of his skills. This is a guy who is so trained that he can jump from a flying aircraft at a certain altitude without a parachute. That's the level of his training. That's a small idea about what he's capable of and so on. Okay. He eventually commanded the 64th Infantry Brigade, and that brigade was not very popular. In fact, later I think it was called 64th Infantry Battalion, you know, and so on. It was not very popular. But look at the skills they had and deployed, which kept the PNDC in power for 19 years. PNDC in power for 19 years and so on. So you cannot run away from his military skills and so on. He has them. Then he speaks French. I don't know if he reads French, but I've heard him speak eloquent French. So he speaks French, which is an addition. In addition to speaking French, he headed the AU's anti-terrorism unit in Algeria. So he knows his marbles. Is that not how they say it? Yeah. He knows his marbles and so on. Okay. So I think that was a brilliant idea. I mean, many people, rightly or wrongly, expected that he would be made the head of national security. Indeed, he had a huge group, which included retired military officers, retired police officers, and so on. And I used to follow their platforms. And I read some very disturbing posts when it became apparent that he was not going to be made the head of national security. One of them actually posted something which simply said that, look, we came to fight to make Mr. Mahama president of the Republic. We had two objectives. One, to make Mr. Mahama president of the Republic, and two, to make Larry Bevulati head of security. We have achieved our first objectives, and we'll do everything possible to achieve our second objective. I was really worried, you know. Now, I think all those people will begin to understand that there is some merit in the new appointment that he has been given. You understand? And that, given the necessary assistance and so on, Larry Bevulati would do work which would be highly beneficial to the sub-region. Because the sub-region is not peaceful at all. You know, at all. Now, there's a huge conflict raging between Niger and Benin over the transmission of oil resources to China. It can lead to war. It can lead to a conflagration and so on. I'm worried. There has already been a coup attempt in Benin. The experts predict that there could be more attempts, and I believe the experts and so on. So turmoil is around the corner. You need somebody with the agility of Larry Bevulati, and in mentioning his credentials, I failed to mention the fact that he's also a lawyer and an academic and so on. So he has so many things that come together to make him the ideal choice for this position. And there's one good thing that President-elect John Dramani Mahama has done. It's only 14 days out of how many days more? I mean, 4 years. Yeah. Huh? But what you're seeing is substantially good. It could have been better if they had not added the privatization of Electricity Company of Ghana. Perhaps it would have been much better than it is now. So we congratulate them. They should carry on and make sure that the promises they made are kept. Whether the promises are good or not is not the issue. Keep them. Because for the first time, we want to demonstrate to the people of Ghana that when politicians approach them on platforms, they mean what they say.
Some of those promises are very interesting. One of them I heard this week was from his own people in Bali, who said he came there and said, vote for him, the MP. If he wins, I'll give you an appointment. And they said they haven't seen the appointment yet, so he should give the appointment. And I think they said one in her constituency too. Yes.
That's happening in so many places. Bole is one of them. Whole Central, is it Whole Central? Whole West?
Whole Central.
It's also one of them. Yesterday I heard about the situation in Winneba, which was also boiling and so on. And I'm sitting back and saying, look, NDC has 180 something MPs. It is not possible to make all of them ministers. It is not possible. You understand? And this agitation for making people ministers because they come from a particular constituency and so on ought to stop very quickly. It's not sensible. It doesn't assist the president to achieve his objectives and so on. And now I've heard people in the NDC say that, as for the 60 ministers, you can drop it in favor of 24-hour economy. You can drop it so that our MP can also become minister and so on. My friends, if you pressurize this president to drop that promise, and he adds one extra minister to 60, you are not winning the next elections. I can assure you. It's a major promise which must be kept. That figure can only come down to 59, 58, maybe 40, maybe 30. But 61 is a no. He will not be allowed. There will be protests, and I will join. I'm telling you, I will join. Because, Senator, I believe very, very strongly that we can run Ghana with far less than 60 ministers. And then, surprise, surprise. You remember that in the last elections, candidate Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia promised, after JM had promised that he will have 60 ministers, he promised that he will reduce it to 50. Can you believe that now, the people who campaigned with him and for him are asking JM, how can you do 60?
Yeah.
So if they think that 60 is impossible, why were they promising 50? The indication is that they didn't mean to keep that promise. You understand? One other area, Atu Forson promises that as soon as he becomes Minister for Finance, he will make sure that e-levy goes. And then Gideon Waku,
where would you find the money?
Spokesperson for Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia on council says, how are you going to find the money? There will be a hole in the budget and so on. I said, but didn't you also promise that we were going to remove e-levy? So how are you going to find the money? I agree with my brother here that the NPP ought to be very careful. Because if they are not careful, they will push themselves into obscurity. They cannot be trusted again if they are not careful. They have to be consistent. If when President Akufo-Addo was chartering private jets and so on, you made an argument on the fact that he didn't have enough leg room. You understand? And you look at President Akufo-Addo, and you look at President John Dramani Mahama, and you think that as for President John Dramani Mahama, he can have enough leg room in the same presidential jet that Akufo-Addo does not have enough leg room, something must be wrong with you. And then you come and make the argument as for President, when he's traveling and he's about to reach some place, he needs to freshen up, he needs to take his bath. As for John Dramani Mahama, he shouldn't take his bath. What is this? So I would urge our friends, and I mean our friends, in the New Patriotic Party to be consistent. They should be principled. And being principled requires a certain measure of consistency. Because if they are not, they will soon drive themselves into obscurity.
Thank you.
Grateful. The issue in Obuasi is rather a very sad commentary on life, because first of all, we're waiting for investigation, so I'm not privy to any private information. So this is just my personal opinion. When we look at this whole galamsey issue or mining issue in our mining areas in the country, it is becoming a huge problem because one, it's employing the youth. Two, the local people, most of the areas they don't seem to be enjoying a part of this. So what is happening is most of the monies that are coming up, even though it's employing the youth, they're getting very minimal amount of money for what they do. And the work is very dangerous. So work safety issues are called into place. There is the whole idea of even children are in the mining areas doing some of these mining. I'm talking about the artisanal mining and also the galamsey, the legal aspect of it. So in my constituency, for instance, there's areas where we do mining. When you go up towards the Mpoho area, there's places called Atiasi, there's places called Mbredane. And when you go beyond, they're even cutting down cocoa trees and rubber plantations to do mining. The locals are not participating or are not benefiting from that whole mining process. And then the foreigners or the people who are mining or the owners of the mines or the concessions, they take all that money and that money is privatized. So Ghana, we are caught between a rock and a hard place. I mean, we have the mineral in the ground. We want to use it. We want to use it for good. But the locals are not benefiting. So I think that this is maybe a microcosm of what is happening in Obuasi. The youth and the young people, they feel like the mining company is taking up all the gold. They are not benefiting. Those who are getting the jobs are too dangerous. There's no work safety issues there. So I feel for both sides, but nonetheless, it shouldn't have resulted in anybody dying. So I'm not privy to a lot of that information, but I'm thinking that since President Mahama has said that he's going to let the investigative bodies really look into it, but we need to address this issue in the mining areas or the mining sectors of our country. What do we do with the youth? What do we do with youth unemployment there? What do we do with some of the gold that is taken out of the land to help the locals? Whatever it is that is coming to the local communities is never enough. The rivers are destroyed. The land is destroyed. We're getting a lot of diseases coming out of there in terms of the mercury, the arsenic, and the cyanide that they're putting into our waters, and it's even ending up in the soil, and that is ending up in our food. So how do we address it? That is one area that I think that we have to have a huge stakeholder engagement and really address it and make sure that the communities that people are mining or companies are mining, individuals are mining, also benefit. And the money has to be sustainable. We need to really look at this whole galamsey. I know it's a sort of a political hot topic, a political don't go there kind of conversation. But I think that with this new administration, it is something that we need to really look into it and hold a really big stakeholders engagement, including the communities, the chiefs, the owners of the mines, the people who are supposed to manage the waterways, our rivers, and all that. Because if we don't take care in the next 4 years or even in the near future, we are not going anywhere. Because it's affecting our water. You know, Ghana Water has come out to say that if at first they were using 1 cup of water to clean 1 bucket of water, now they're using 10 cups of water to clean the same 1 bucket of water. So even the chemicals that the Ghana Water is using is now having traces in the water we are drinking. So currently in Ghana, we are almost having a water crisis that I think that a lot of us are not paying serious attention to. And this water crisis, when you come to the Western region, some of our taps, we have not flowed with water for months. And we're all looking at boreholes. But pretty soon, you know, I know it's the water table and all that, but if all of us are digging boreholes, which even most people can afford to, then where will we get water? Water is becoming one of the most essential commodities that we are running out of. So we need to really, really look at water, the source of water, and what this mining or the galamsey, either artisanal galamsey, legitimate or illegitimate mining, the entire mining sector is doing to our water. And I'm hoping that with the new Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, he will call a stakeholders engagement and look at this issue. So the youth in Obuasi, going back to them, it appears that they feel left out of the national cake or the Obuasi cake of the gold in the ground. The company is a private company, so they have also invested. Now, how do we end up where the youth are fighting, like there's a conflict where people actually are gunned down? At this juncture, I think that it should be rubber bullets, or it should be like something. There's a way to curb insurgency or curb riots, and it shouldn't end up with live bullets where people actually die. So I'm not sure what the instruction was for the mining company and why they're even holding real guns. At this juncture, there's no warfare. So I feel like there shouldn't be a circumstance under which they have guns with live bullets. It should be rubber bullets or tear gas, something else that would disperse a crowd rather than live bullets that would actually kill 8 people. So I'm hoping that police will do a good investigation and come up with an investigative report. Once that report comes out, I think that we will all now be better able to speak on the matter, because as you said, we are hearing so much conflicting information. The assemblyman, I saw him on air saying something else. This person is saying something else. The youth are saying something else. So what is the true story? What actually transpired? But in spite of what transpired, I still truly believe that nobody should have died. So why are people dead, and what was the instruction? But the bigger issue is about how the communities that have mining within the communities benefit. What I see with our gold, specifically gold, is that almost all this money goes into private pockets. It is like, unlike the resource that we have, I think we have in abundance, that the money is all privatized. I'm not seeing even, I mean, I'm assuming that if a company is mining in my village, for instance, right, in Mbredani, I should go to Mbredani and see nice schools. I should see, like, the people who live there have to benefit. But every time I've been to a mining site or mining village, it's some of the worst places in terms of development. Even the road leading to the town has not been done. So where is that money going? And why is it that we are not even required, whether it's a real concession, it's Galamsey, it's Obuasi Gold Company, whoever, private people, why are we not requiring that there have to be some minimum development in all those areas? And I keep saying, especially like for the Western region, you know, the Western region has a lot of natural resources. And every day I look at the Western region metro, which consists of Sekondi, Takoradi, Esikado, Kwesi, and Efia, the capital of the Western region. And I keep saying that with the amount of resources coming out of there, you look at oil, you look at gas, you look at cocoa, you also now look at gold, bauxite, we have manganese. And the deplorable state in which we live in the Western region metro, I'm always baffled. Every time I go back, I sit in my car and I'm either weeping or complaining about something, because it should be like at least nothing at all. It should be like Johannesburg, maybe mini Johannesburg. We have all these resources, but we don't know where it goes. And the people that live in those communities are not benefiting. So I think that the anger of the youth has to do with some of these underlying sentiments. The anger of the company has to do with, it is our concession, we have the legal right to be here, you're not legal. And so it's going to lead to, maybe if we don't fix this problem and find lasting solutions to this problem, I truly believe that it's going to escalate in other parts of the country. And so we're waiting for the investigative report, and once it comes, then we can speak to it with more evidence and more evidence-based solutions to it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, just a few comments. Kojo Chumbafu has come back to remind me that he went to Achimota School. the same school that Ken Oforiatta and Charles Eduboahen went to. I don't know why he brought in Charles. That Ken Oforiatta and Charles Eduboahen also went to Achimota School. There's this one from Prophet Christian in Volta region. Says, I would love to ask why we do trust the military with their guns to protect us, but do not trust them in governing us. There's Mohammed, who's okay. Mohammed just tells us that, okay, so the road ministry should construct rail from Accra to Kumasi for easy access to both cities. I'm not sure. When it comes to rail construction, that now goes under the transport ministry. There was a separate ministry, but goes under the transport ministry. So it's the transport ministry that this should be addressed to. Okay, some more comments. I'm trying to read some of the text messages you're sending to us. I rarely read text messages. So today, says, Sana, please tell parliamentarians we the young ones are learning from them. They should stop They should stop hitting our properties like parliament. It isn't money used to... is the money that is used to provide this issue. Skep from Sogakope, they are not so happy about how our parliamentarians treat property in parliament. This one says, please, we the grassroots are worried not only about the appointment of MPP members to NCA, GRA, and VRA, but at the way national, regional, and constituency executives are going for appointments, it will affect the party's chances in 2028. Example, the National Youth Wing, have all of them been appointed? The National Communications Officer and his deputy as well. I think we shouldn't have 4 years to rule this country. My regards to Kwesi Pratt Jr. That's Honorable Sani Kahuna, who is in Boko. I hope I got the spelling of your name right. There are a few more comments that I just wanted to go through. Then I'll come to you. Lawyer Pia Dankwa. This lawyer David Amatepe, who says, send a hi to my client and adopted MP, Professor Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa. Okay, so your lawyer. There's okay, Angelo Kojofiagbe says, okay, there's started very well until the intel that one Edmond Yenchi will be director of NCA. Strong signal was directed from the grassroots against that appointment. But President Mahama ignored loud cry of the grassroots and chose Fianco over and above millions of grassroots grassroots opposition. It's painful how President Mahama could soon begin to throw dust in the face of those who made him president of the nation. How could President Mahama choose Fianco over and above those of us who receive abuses just to make him president? Thank you very much for that comment. Those are some of the comments you're sending to us. I'll go through some more, but Laya.
Yeah, so I think Alaji should be commended for not only giving us opportunity to speak to a lot of people, but sometimes we ourselves we get educated here.
Yes.
And today has been very
educative.
Yeah, personally, and like I said, it's always a pleasure to sit with permit me to say comrade Kwesi Pratt and then my Leonard and my professor here. I think the expose on why Bebulati, why the envoy thing was super, and also on the Galamsey issue, I think I'm starting off with you about the need to find real employment for the young people. I think that goes to the bottom of why we're having a Galamsey issue. But I think in analyzing this issue also, we must not lose the fact of what the last regime was in their role and then how that has played out. I recall during the latter months of their reign, sometime late last year in the Western region, when the Western regional minister had a meeting with on this Galamsey issue, and one of the PCs, I don't know exactly which constituency he was, had the temerity to say that where the people taxed with stopping Galamsey, when they come, the military, the police, then they should attack them. And I think you can't decouple what has happened in Obuasi with some of those reckless statements in the past. Because we've had an issue where, because of the negligence of government, in spite of the trust that was created in the president, they've allowed Galamsey to become endemic to the extent that these Galamsey people also have their own militia. So I understand usually where it's not like a route, it's more like a warfare. So because it's either as they will kill you. They have the Galamseyers. They have weapons and they may kill you. You understand? And also they've been told by politicians that where the military or the police come to stop you, attack them. And for 8 years, as in, government has slept and allowed these people to grow, you understand, to the extent where they can have the courage to attack the military. Also, I've heard there are a lot of things going on social media, and I've touched on something that also Captain Smart said, and it's very worrying when you consider what triggered the genocide in Rwanda. You see, I always say in Ghana, the journalists in Ghana, or people who play roles that journalists play. I think the way right now we have so many media, a lot of people who are not trained journalists also play the role of journalists. But you see, for an institution that we confer the fourth estate of the state on, it tells you the power, the world. For all of us, when we have the privilege on coming on set, we must be guided by that huge responsibility in terms of what comes out of our mouths. So, when you get the privilege to be addressing people, you must be mindful of the things you say. It must be things that will build, not to destroy. There should be things that will build institutions, not to destroy institutions. There should be things that will not cause chaos and mayhem. Yes, so you understand that because of the framework of that governs our natural resource sector, the people are not benefiting. Well, there's a reason why Article 257 of our Constitution says that the natural resources in Ghana are for the people of this country. And the president just holds them in trust. But I agree with Prof. when she said the money gets into the hands of individual pockets. Indeed, even the royalties. We must even look into the royalties. Well, the royalties goes to the chiefs. And the chiefs themselves, the mineral resources there are not for them, they are for the people. So we need a massive overhaul. But having said that, it shouldn't lie in the mouth of somebody who speaks to people through the media to give a narrative that will promote chaos. That will promote chaos. Well, I've been seeing Captain Smart's views around. And
to be fair to him, I think what he said is that those comments were very old.
No.
That's very old.
They're old, but they're still alive. Because if you want, they're old, but they're still alive.
No, but he said it's very old, but it is after the thing happened that they started being circulated to.
You don't understand.
Okay.
So let's say he even said that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, you would have built a certain narrative, a certain opinion in the minds of people that would lead them to explode, like happened in Obuasi. Yes, and that's what I'm saying. When you get the privilege to be on media, you must be mindful of the kind of things you say. Indeed, I think the media regulator should do more in terms of even regulating the persons who even I know we have what's called freedom of speech, but where people are leading, as in they are leading programs, serious programs on media, then there must be a system which will ensure that you don't allow people who have the propensity to go on media and drive a certain narrative that can cause this, what happened in Obuasi, because he can't exonerate or take himself out of. He's certainly at fault. You understand? Also, I've listened to the minority chief whip. The same minority chief whip who said that when it comes to the issue of Galamsey, the NDC has destroyed the river bodies more than the MPP. Very reckless and unfortunate statement. Because you see, when Dog was talking about the sunlight, the sunlight, lead, understand? See, when those chemicals get into your system, they don't leave, or you take a very long time Yeah. And so when you talk about the issue pertaining to Galamsey, you are talking about our very existence. River bodies are being destroyed. Understand? And you need to understand that when you are talking about the history of the forging of cities and those communities, you can't take away from it, because there's a reason why every major city in the world aggregates around a major river. And you have this minority chief whip trying to reduce this serious issue into one of partisanship. Is there any evidence? And I don't understand why the NDC are sitting and allowing this party that has no credibility now to be driving a narrative that is NDC members causing a lot of mayhem around. I don't know why the NDC is sitting and allowing such a narrative to be driven. Because is there any evidence that suggests that it's NDC youth who did what they did? Especially when senior MPP members are on record to have encouraged Galamseyers that when people granted authority by the state and by extension by the people of Ghana to arrest people who are committing this atrocious crime against all of us, they should pick arms and fight against them. It's MPP people, it was MPP, what was called PCs and senior members who were driving that narrative. And yet, what's there? He didn't say, and the regional minister is the chairman of the RECSEC for Western region. And we allow all these characters to lead politics in this country and to be making such reckless statements. Fail to recognize that this is a national issue. Because at the bottom of this is a security issue. See, so there is the Galamsey issue, but it's also a security issue. You understand? And it must be addressed properly. But you do not sit down, minority chief, and want to reduce such a serious issue where people, they claim it's 7 people. I've also heard reports that they may even be more, have lost their lives. They want to reduce this to a partisan issue. Minority chief whip. They want to reduce this to a partisan issue. Yeah, so you see, we all need to be serious. We need to be serious. We need to renew our commitment to building this nation. We shouldn't allow all certain characters to be driving certain narrative at all levels. Also, sit and allow certain characters to be playing with very serious issues, you understand, and cause a destruction of our nation. We don't have anywhere. The only place we have is Ghana. Yes, sir. We talk about and you see, I think there's a story that says that there's no place like home, no matter how humble it is. Yes, sir. And also George Bernard Shaw said that liberty also means what? Responsibility. You understand? So as much as we should always take pride in the freedom and justice, being like the motto of the country, we must also understand that it comes with responsibility. And the people who chase positions, minority chief whip, and they should also understand that it comes with responsibility in how you speak, the kind of things that you say. People who get a chance to go on media, it also comes with responsibility. Because we've lost 7 needless lives because of careless statements. Largely, we must be able to draw a line. You understand? Unlike the previous president, at least this president says we must investigate. Unlike this previous president who didn't see the wisdom in making a statement when 8 lives were lost. At least he said what an investigation should be made. Beyond the investigation, I think there must be a comprehensive review of our natural resource management structure. There must be a comprehensive review, a comprehensive battle against Galamsey. You understand? A review that will ensure, like Doug rightly said, that the people who the minerals are for benefit from these minerals. And then we create a system where it does not just enter into one person's pocket. And I also mean the royalties. Because in my mind, the chiefs are giving the royalties with an understanding that the land there belongs to the people. Because you Ghana here, the land belongs to the chief, the land belongs to the chief. But the chiefs are also supposed to hold the land in trust for their people. there must be a system that will ensure the royalties benefit everybody, and they don't find it's of in one person's pocket. Yes. So I won't speak much. We are waiting the investigation. We are waiting the investigation. But the call for a reset is also a call that the people, the repository of real political power, because this is a democracy, we should forge that charter. Now ensure that certain characters are far away from political leadership. And the system must also ensure that people who are placed in front of TV, who communicate to masses, are people who understand the responsibilities, the ethics of what they are doing. Because just one wrong statement, one wrong narrative can be the spark that will bring an unnecessary chaos in our system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me read a comment from sent via text. This is Lewis. Lewis says, I'm worried when people don't talk about the truth when it comes to the Obuasi issue. If we have any questions to ask, I believe we have to ask our leaders. Because if we live in a country which can't open its own company, but trying to privatize every company to private persons, mind you, no one will sit back and watch his or her investment destroyed. And secondly, those Galamsey guys are armed. These politicians are making our officers unpopular by encouraging the youth to make them look like normal security personnel. There's also Nana Echampo who says, Senator Prof is right. The government must take a monopoly of our minerals for development. There's this one, Let's Ghana Lead, says, okay, I think he concludes by saying Let Ghana Lead. I didn't get his name. Initially, I was getting impatient when some new faces were not appointed as ministers, because I know for a fact that there are people who drain their blood to see the NDC win, who equally deserve it based on merit. Wondering why the repetitive appointment of former ministers, but I've come to realize that we are at the face of Ghana's economy where trial is not an option. This is a crucial point of resetting where some level of experience in the same space is critical. Fellow Ghanaians, if nothing at all, President Mahama is good at reshuffling. Let's relax and hope that the economy stabilizes, because that's more important than just flooding fewer people in positions. Who knows? The president may consider bringing others on board where necessary. Let Ghana lead, he concludes. This one says, please, about Obuasi issue. Why do they want to include Captain Smart in it? By the time when Captain Smart talked about the issue, everybody was happy. So if there's something wrong, they should look at that thing and stop diverting the problem onto Captain Smart. Thanks. Thank you for that comment. Ricky Ni or Datilamte from Odododi Audio Consultancy says, I'm an NDC branch executive. We use the organization to work for the NDC party. The name of the organization is okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for introducing yourself. This one says, Mr. Owis, this is most unfortunate that 7 precious human lives were dreadfully lost in Obuasi incident. I think comprehensive investigation must be launched by the Ghana Police Administration, and the government in any one form capable in aiding it must face the law. To mitigate the Galamsey menace and its ecological impact in Ghana, alternative livelihoods must be provided for those in Galamsey communities. NS Everlove Kwashi Dansuman sent that particular statement. Okay, so those are just some of the comments. Mr. Pratt.
Well, I keep hearing that 7 people lost their lives. But I've heard from some other quarters that 9 people lost their lives. I've also heard the figure 8.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, people have lost their lives and we ought to be concerned. Now, I'm worried about the whole picture which is unfolding before our very eyes. We recruit people, train them, arm them, put uniforms on them to protect us, to protect the territorial integrity of Ghana and so on. And then in the final analysis, no matter what happens, they turn the guns on citizens of Ghana. That's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. You understand? Huge problem. Now, they don't just turn the guns on the people of Ghana. They turned the guns on the people of Ghana in defense of the concessions granted to foreign multinational corporations. Master, clear. Our soldiers in this particular instance and in other instances are not there for our defense. They are there to protect the concessions of foreign multinational corporations against us. That's the problem. No matter how you look at it, who attacked first, who attacked second, and so on, just sending soldiers to that concession is a statement that the soldiers are there to protect the concessions against citizens. I don't know why we don't see it that way. Our soldiers must first and foremost, under all circumstances, be there to protect Ghanaians. That's part of it. The second part of this is just the raw statistics, the raw picture. If you take Africa, and I mean the whole of Africa, Ghana is the largest producer of gold in Africa, the leading producer of gold in Africa. Ghana is the fifth biggest producer of gold in the world. Now move around the world and see where gold is produced. And come to Ghana and see where gold is produced and see the difference. And ask yourself whether the difference does not tell a story. If you compare Obuasi to Johannesburg, why wouldn't the people of Obuasi be angry? They have a legitimate right to be angry. You understand? When I was a kid, one of the delights of my life and our life was just to eat oranges from Obuasi. They were the sweetest oranges you could find anywhere in the world. You cut them open and they look yellow, beautiful yellow. Sweetest oranges you could find anywhere in the world. Today, I cannot eat oranges from Obuasi because a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, the Third World Network published a report which indicates that the arsenic level in oranges from Obuasi, food grown in Obuasi, are 10 times more than what the World Health Organization says is allowable. We should be worried about this. The people of Obuasi have a legitimate right to be worried about this situation. Today, and I'm happy that we have a distinguished medical practitioner with us. Children are being born in the mining areas without their limbs. They are being born deformed. Some are being born brain damaged. Some are being born they will never see in their lives. Children are being born deformed. Why? Because of the chemicals which are being used for mining. And they don't get any benefit. Senna, I've been to Obuasi. I've been to Obuasi. You cannot believe that the biggest gold mining operation in West Africa takes place there. The roads are bad. People have no access to decent housing. To think that Obuasi does not have a first-class medical facility. Because if mining is leading to all of these conditions and so on, at least get a first-class medical facility in Obuasi. There's none like that. So this is the context within which we should be having this conversation. This is the context. It's mining, what it's doing to the community, and what the community is getting or not getting from mining. That's the basis. You understand? Now, I've heard some people in this discussion say that, oh, we've given license to these multinational corporations to operate, so we have to protect their investment. Nonsense. When the concession was being given to Anglo Gold Ashanti, were the people of Obuasi consulted? None of them took part in that decision. None of them took part in that decision. It is the connivance of our ruling elite and the giant corporations from the colonial metropolis which is perpetuating this situation. And it's a situation we should not accept. Sana, in 1945, when Kwame Nkrumah, Nnamdi Azikiwe, all those leaders, Padmore, Du Bois, and so on, when they met in Manchester, the resolution they passed was that we should intensify the national liberation struggle, we should become independent very quickly and so on. And that independence meant three things. One, we should have the power to choose our own leaders. Two, we should own our resources. And three, these resources must be exploited for the benefit of our people. Are we exploiting these resources for the benefit of our people? Are we? You know, I am getting deeply worried by the situation with mines in our country. And Sana, we've already discussed the 14 days of President John Dramani Mahama. Given the hype which was given to Galamsey in the election results, I would have expected to see some real serious action on Galamsey. Yeah. From the first day, not 14, first day. I would have expected to see some serious action. The announcement of a task force to deal with it, something. Because Galamsey is killing us. Only recently, the Water Company of Ghana issued a statement that the whole community in the Western Region cannot have access to potable water because the water is not treatable. They can't even treat it. The people of Sekendi Takra, they are in trouble, your constituency. Yes. Because their water sources have been destroyed, completely destroyed. That is why people are angry. That is why people are also struggling to get some access to the gold on which they sit. So that at least they can keep body and soul together. That's the reason. We must take measures and urgent measures to take control of all of our resources, including gold, including bauxite, including oil, including gas, and exploit these for the benefit of our people. It's an imperative. We can't run away from it. You understand? Only recently, one of my very distinguished friends, Sir Sam Jonah, made an astonishing revelation. I hope you remember that we, Ghanaians, we don't have even 1% interest in the exploitation of our gold. Are we happy with this situation? And if we don't, why do we think that our people, our young people and so on, would not find ways and means of getting some of the wealth that they see, that they sit on? That's the problem. Again, you know, I am happy that the president has asked for full investigations into what happened in Obuasi. I'm very, very happy that he had done that. I do hope that the scope of the investigations will go beyond just what happened at Obuasi that day, the shooting, to cover a political, social, and economic analysis of gold in Obuasi. A full-blown political, social, and economic analysis of gold in Obuasi. So we can understand the problem in all of its dimensions. If you go and we do an investigation of what bullet was fired, what direction did it come from, did the indigenes have guns and so on, it does not address the fundamental problem. So we must set up a committee which will do a total, full analysis of all the factors involved in gold production, using this happening as the entry point of that investigation. That's the only way this investigation will make sense.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a comment from Hardy Pig Farm. Says, good morning. Honestly, MPP is an enemy to the state. They will never change. Why do they hate this country called Ghana so this much? Anytime MPP comes to power, Mother Ghana goes back 20 years. Nanado was more interested in becoming a president than accepting the responsibilities of a president. Nanado has troubled Ghanaians so much that even chiefs are afraid to sit down and greet. Indeed, Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the present, and disappointed the future. Inshallah, Mother Ghana will work again under the leadership of JDM. That's Hadi. A belated happy birthday to you, Hadi. You celebrated, I think you celebrated your happy birthday your birthday this week. This one says, happy birthday to the most amazing person in my life, Elliot Wogbe. It is my prayers that he continues to excel in life. Amen. Elliot, a happy birthday to you. And a few more comments that I can see. Okay, this Ezina, who says, it's about time we stop viewing our minerals, land, forests as resources. We should reframe and redefine them as our wealth. By this definition, we can make any investor who is exploiting this wealth with their so-called winner-takes-all technologies to understand that the computation of sharing this wealth will no more be based on their interest, but our interest as well. Ezina, thank you very much for that comment. And okay, this one's a sinner. Hamza Pig Farm says, good morning, my brother. The appointment of president to various individuals so far so good, but they should remember that they have been appointed to serve with humility and respect to Ghanaians. I only hope that they will learn from ministers of the past government. The arrogant posture and disrespect to Ghanaians lead to their defeat in the 2024 election. Sana, is the NDC telling us that we don't have men for the job, or what? What is Fifi Boafo and Usu Bempa and Co still doing at their various positions? The NDC should remember party functionaries work hard to bring the party to power. We are watching. Thank you for that comment. A few more comments. This one says, if a state fails to control national resources that will benefit the people, that's what you see. What you see is an example of what happened on Obuasi. More is yet to occur. That's coming from you. You did not add your name. Marvin says, this is Marvin Kwako from Kwashima. Fantastic delivery from Honorable. Okay, he is not here. Marvin, I don't know. Okay, it's an old one because Marvin, the man did not make it in, right? Saying that he made a fantastic delivery. Neil Antewanda always not here. Siglo Ibrahim is also joining us. Says, it's good JDM has called for swift action and investigation into Obuasi case. It's commendable. Thank you for that comment. Says the NDC MPs must be extra careful with their MPP counterparts in Parliament. They don't mean well at all. They are setting traps for the government to fall in, as well as to fail the 120-day social contracts promised by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Even as MPP is materially irrelevant to our cause as we see it, they are bent on pushing for relevance by their ill motives and actions. I urge all and sundry to become wary of this phenomenon of the MPP as it is. Time will tell, and we can do better. I have to go through the rest of the comment because unfortunately, but I don't think we have time for the last discussion. So let me use the time to just go through a few of the comments that are being sent. This one says, frankly speaking, my brother Senna, this Obuasi killings is a stampede on the fundamental human rights of we the citizens. Is the act of the youth who went justified? Certainly no. And is the actions of the Rasta and bedded soldiers also justified? Capital no. So now tell me, can two wrongs make a right? The military men should have acted professionally. The intel I gathered is that the first batch of soldiers came and spoke to the youth to calm down. A second batch also came, and then a call was placed to someone unknown, and then the third batch now came and they opened fire on the youth who were unarmed, killing them and injuring many. Reverend from Danso said that the investigation should be quick and findings made known to the public. Thank you, Reverend, for the comment. There's also, okay, this one doesn't come with a name. Sana, with all due respect, I do not agree with Kwesi Pratt, assuming without admitting that some people plan to rob a prominent person or organization. If the military or police have information, they should not protect the company or individual because the company or individual is cheating the neighborhood people. I don't think that's what he said. The problem he had was the turning of the guns on the guys. He didn't talk about protection. Thank you for the comment. This one says, Ahmed Zongo Caucus coordinator, Sikado Kitan says good morning. Today is a fantastic. God bless you for the in-depth analysis since regards to his MP, Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa. There's also says, I think no matter what comes out of the investigation, the soldiers must be arrested for killing defenseless people. Killing is now common and becoming normal in the country. And this is very bad. Joe sent that from Elembele. Thank you, Joe. This is Isana, please tell my fellow foot soldiers that there are some people behind NDC, but you can't see them. They are working quietly. So we should allow the president to do his own appointments. Thank you. There's Kwame Nkrumah. Is it Abraham? Says, good morning. My name is Kwame Nkrumah Abraham from Tamale. Please, the problems we have today, we are not only physical, but not spiritual. Okay, your comment is not clear, but I think it's suggesting that the problems are a mix of the physical and the spiritual. Anthony Bruce, mystic from Gomoa West. If the MPP have nothing to discuss, they should set up a 30-year defeat committee in having a strategy concerning how to come back after those number of years, rather than wasting their time discussing a private jet belonging to the president's brother. Have they soon forgotten about the jet that carried the former president and Sawa Bruni all this while? Thank you. Some more. Let me see. I'll go through. I'm trying to go through as many as I can. Hi, Sana. This issue about killing of guys in Obuasi all ties down to what Comrade Kwesi Pratt said in his earlier remarks. It all ties down to the issue of privatization of our state assets. Can we consider the Niger action of sacking Orano Mining Company from their uranium mine and privatizing it in order to benefit them fully? Can we do the same to these mining companies where these multi-million-dollar foreign companies mine and take all these from us, leaving our people with some sort of health issues and poverty? I think this is the time to take back all things belonging to us rather than always thinking of foreign investment. We've done it before during Nkrumah's time, and we can still do it again now. Thank you. Some more. And then says, what are NDC MPs using their supermajority for? Why are they allowing the MPP MPs dictating to them in Parliament? If this is what they are going to do, then they should be preparing to embrace whatever defeat in 2020. It's very disappointing to see what went on in Parliament yesterday. There's a Fesro Amira who says, good morning. I can't believe the hypocrisy and misbehavior of the MPP. Were they saying no Ablekuma, no government business? What happened under Nanado to the people of Sao? Have they forgotten that the people of Sao were denied representation for 4 good years for no reasons? Are they not Ghanaians? They should kindly give us a break for the NDC to develop Ghana. Please, we should remember that the president cannot appoint everyone because the number of ministers are very small. So we should exercise some constraints for now. This man has very good intention for Ghana. Yeah, some more. Just that, I think, okay, there's this particular one. Okay, this one is from Pastor Brian Scanlan Dofe. Says, please, Sana, kindly extend my greetings to Madam Jifa Tegan. Tell her I miss her very seriously. When would we see her again? Good morning to you, Jafar. And there's someone who is also asking that I should, someone pass on a message a bit earlier on, that I should ask, okay, please ask Dr. Grace Ayensu Dankwa if she has attended Kotoka Primary School in Bemakam before. Okay. So it's not the Grace Ayensu Dankwa, you know. This is a different Grace Ayensu Dankwa. A big thank you to you for making time to join us on the show today. Once again, a happy birthday to Elliot Uwogbe. Happy birthday to you. Celebrates his birthday today. Elliot is one of the biggest contributors to Alaji and Alaji, and we really do appreciate the years of dedication to the show. Okay. There's Zelda Oglad, who is also celebrating another year in ministry. So, happy birthday to you, and of course, congratulations to you, Zelda Oglad. We are back same time next week with another edition of the mother of all talk shows, Alaji and Alaji. We say a big thank you to those of you who watched us and listened to us. I am Sena Nombo, and joining me in the studio to have our discussion, very educative discussion we had this morning. And of course, Professor Grace Ayensu Dankwa is a member of parliament, servant of the people of Esikado Ketang. Congratulations once again. Wish you success in parliament.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to tell the people to give us some time, the NDC side some time, and let these people show their hand, and then we'll take over the parliament and do the right thing for the people of Ghana. So this.
Thank you. And of course, lawyer Andrew Afia Dankwa, member of the movement for change, always happy seeing you. And Kwesi Pratt Jr., who never stops reminding us of alternative thinking. Most of the times we are hearing the same things in the whole week. He comes and his dimension is completely different, and holding on to the principles that he's always held on for this many years. If not, would have lost a lot. But thank you, most importantly, for making time. We really do.
Yeah, dear Kasa Ebetiha. Subscribe to channel no. Like na share jumadi edema afoforo ensa enkan. Comment section ho na do adwen kire aba. Macrow, you be share in the next video.
Dedi kama Mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Now so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.